Mr. Moore's math class!
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to Mr. Moore's online flip classroom. And guys, I'm extremely excited today because we're going to learn all about how to factorize polynomials. That is, cubic and quartic expressions. Now, of course, like always, there's going to be a few steps that you need to follow in order to be able to do just this. So let's have a look at a little bit of an explanation on the steps that you need to follow. Let's check it out.
Alright, so today we're having a look at how to factorise polynomials. Now polynomials, remember, are things that look like this. It was where you've got p of x is equal to x cubed plus 3x squared minus 2x plus 10, or for example, f of x is equal to 2x to the power of 5 plus 4x to the power of 4 minus 3x squared minus 5. The thing that makes it a polynomial is that these powers here are whole numbers, that is, they're integers, and then whole numbers above 0. Now there's a few steps that we need to follow when factorising polynomials. Now step 1 is to look for factors of the polynomial by applying the remainder or factor theorems. Step 2 is to go through and perform long division or synthetic division and write p of x as equal to factor multiplied by the quotient. That is, whatever factor you found multiplied by the quotient once you've gone through and divided it. And step 3 is to continue to repeat this process until it's been fully factorised.
Awesome, guys, so I guess it's as easy as 3 simple steps. That is, 1, use the factor theorem to find out a factor of the polynomial. Number 2, either long divide or use synthetic division in order to be able to find the factor and the quotient. And number 3, continue this process until it's been fully factorised. Alright guys, now let's have a quick little look at a worked example of how to factorise a polynomial using long division. Let's check it out.
Alright, so the following question says use long division to factorise x cubed minus 7x minus 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give this a name p of x. So we'll write p of x is equal to x cubed minus 7x minus 6. Now we want to look to factorise this. So to look to factorise it, the very first thing we need to do is try and find a factor of this. Now, there's one little hint that we can use in order to be able to find a factor, but the rest is trial and error. And that is, we want to look for factors of negative 6, because that here is equal to negative 6. So, factors of negative 6, well, let's just see if x minus 1 is a factor, for example. So is x minus 1 a factor? Well, let's find out. So to find out if x minus 1 is a factor, what we're going to do is we're going to write p of 1 in here. And we're going to get 1 cubed minus 7 times 1 minus 6. Alright, that therefore is going to get us 1 minus 7 minus 6, which is equal to negative 12. And so because it's not 0, we know that x minus 1 is not a factor. Alright, well let's see if x plus 2 is a factor, for example. So, is x plus 2 a factor? Alright, well to find out, I'll substitute p of negative 2. So that's going to get us negative 2 cubed minus 7 times negative 2 minus 6. Simplifying now, so negative 2 cubed is negative 8. Negative 7 times negative 2 is positive 14 minus 6. Negative 8 plus 14, well that's equal to 6. Minus 6 is equal to 0. So therefore x plus 2 is a factor because there's no remainder. Alright, now we know that x plus 2 is a factor. What I need to do is I need to divide p of x by x plus 2. So to do that, I'm just going to write x plus 2 here, and I'm going to write my p of x out underneath. So that is equal to x cubed. Now I need to put in a 0x squared because there's actually no x squared here, so I got a 0x squared as a placeholder, and then I write minus 7x minus 6. Going through and dividing now, so I go x cubed divided by x gets me x squared, making sure the x squared goes above the x squared here, and then I go through and multiply, because this goes divide, multiply, subtract, drag. So multiply now, x squared times x is x cubed, x squared times 2 is positive 2x squared. Right in brackets now because it's subtract. X cubed minus x cubed, well they're going to cancel each other out, so that's going to be equal to 0. And 0x squared minus positive 2x squared is negative 2x squared. Now I've subtracted, I need to drag, so I go minus 7x because I drag that down here like so. And I go through and divide once again, so negative 2x squared divided by x is negative 2x. Now I've divided, I go multiply, so negative 2x times x is equal to negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times 2 is equal to negative 4x. Now I've multiplied, I go through and subtract. So subtracting from here, you get negative 2x squared minus negative 2x squared, they go away. And you got negative 7x minus negative 4x. Well, the negative minus becomes a positive, so you get negative 7x plus 4x is equal to negative 3x. And I drag this bad boy down here like so. Alright, going through and dividing once again, negative 3x divided by x is equal to negative 3. And you go negative 3 times x is equal to negative 3x. Negative 3 times 2 is equal to negative 6. Put in brackets here, subtract them now. Negative 3x minus negative 3x, well, they're going to cancel out. And negative 6 minus negative 6, well, they'll also cancel out, meaning that there is a remainder of 0. So therefore, I know that when I divide x cubed plus 0x squared minus 7x minus 6 by x plus 2, I get x squared minus 2x minus 3. So in other words, what I could say is if p of x is equal to x cubed minus 7x minus 6, I also know that if I go x plus 2 and x squared minus 2x minus 3, that will also equal x cubed minus 7x minus 6, because as you can see up above here, the x cubed plus 0x squared minus 7x minus 6 divided by x plus 2, well, that divided by that gets us this. That means that x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x minus 3 will give us this. That is, if I multiply this one here by this one here, I get x cubed minus 7x minus 6. So let's go through now and try and factorise the last bracket. So we're looking for factors of c that add to b. Well, what are the factors of negative 3? Well, we've got 1 and negative 3 and negative 1 and 3. Which one will give us negative 2? Well, it's going to be 1 and negative 3. So therefore I get x plus 2, x plus 1, and x minus 3. That essentially is just going through and factorising quadratic function like we did in the previous chapter. And it's now that time of the lesson again where you need to go through and attempt the following question, that is, use long division to factorise x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4. Now, like always, remember to press play once you're done so you can check your answer against mine. Alright, so welcome back. Now, as it said, the question asks us to long divide x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4 in order to be able to factorise. So the very first thing I've done here is I've defined this function here as p of x. So I've written p of x is equal to x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4. The next thing I've done is look to see if x plus 2 is a factor. So I've substituted in p of negative 2. That got us negative 2 cubed plus 3 times negative 2 squared minus 4. Now negative 2 cubed is negative 8. Negative 2 squared is positive 4 times 3 is positive 12, and negative 4 at the end. Negative 8 plus 12 minus 4 is 0, therefore yes, x plus 2 is a factor. So what I was able to do then is come up here and write x plus 2 out the front, and x cubed plus 3x squared plus 0x as a placeholder, because there's no x's there, there's no linear terms that is, and minus 4 at the end. Going through and dividing now, I went x cubed divided by x is x squared, that you can see written up here. Multiply them across now, so x squared times x is x cubed, x squared times 2 is 2x squared. Subtract, so you got 0 here, and 3x squared minus 2x squared got me 1x squared. Then what I did was brought down the 0x that was a placeholder, as you can see here, and I've gone x squared divided by x got me x, writing above the 0x. X times x was x squared, x times 2 was 2x. Subtracting now, got us these two here cancelling out once again, and 0 minus 2x is negative 2x. Once again, I now need to subtract. Once again, I now need to drag it down, so the negative 4 comes down here, and I go through and divide once again. So negative 2x divided by x is negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Subtracting them now, so you go negative 2x minus negative 2x, well, they're going to cancel out, and negative 4 minus negative 4 will also cancel out, leaving us with a remainder of 0, which is what we should have found anyway, because before we proved that x plus 2 was a factor. It's just a good way of checking things, really. Alright, now what I've done is I've come up here, I've rewritten out p of x being x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4, but what we do know now is I can rewrite this here as two factors, that is x plus 2, which you can see over here, and x squared plus x minus 2, which you can see over here. I've written x plus 2, x squared plus x minus 2, because we know that these two, when we multiply them together, we'll get whatever you've got here. Alright, so I'm looking here, I've got x plus 2 and x squared plus x minus 2, and I now need to look to factorise what's in the quadratic bracket. So to do that, I need to look for factors of negative 2 that add to 1. So the factors of negative 2 are 1 and negative 2, and 2 and negative 1. Now because it's a positive one, it's going to be 2 minus 1 is positive 1. So you get x plus 2, being this one here, is just come straight down. But you got also x plus 2 and x minus 1. The 2 coming from here and the minus 1 coming from here. So therefore, because I've got x plus 2 and x plus 2 here, I can actually say it's been multiplied by itself twice, or it's being squared. So you've got x plus 2 squared, x minus 1 brackets. And that there is a factorised form of p of x.